Perfect.
So Amanda and Anne have both shared some great ideas about what you can do at home to reduce carbon emissions, shifting to a plant-based diet, for example, or reducing and recycling waste. And all these types of actions are important and they help, but they are not enough to reduce carbon emissions to a sustainable level. To accomplish that, we need policies and plans to change the way we produce food, produce and consume energy, the way we build buildings and cities and move about from place to place. I'm Marilyn Maris, and I want to take a few minutes to talk about additional actions you can undertake to amplify your action through your impact through community action. First of all, we need to recognize that policies have to change at many levels. And I want to focus today on ways you can engage in grassroots organizing here in King County. And that may mean writing letters to newspaper art editors, participating in, planning, or hosting events, using social media, meeting with policymakers, showing up to City Hall, marching in the streets, and especially during this period, donating money to groups who are working to bring about the changes we want to see. So I suggest that you find groups and actions that align with your values and speak to your interest. This is important because there's so many groups out there doing different things. And if you're going to have any impact at all, you need to sustain your engagement as you meet frustration with the slow and delayed pace of change. So I suggest you find 2 or 3 groups which align with your values and interests to help you keep going. Otherwise, you risk spreading yourself too thin and getting frustrated, disillusioned, and withdrawing into despair. So Unitarian Universalists, we share a fundamental value around an approach to nature. And the values in our Unitarian tradition align with the aims and approach of many environmental groups here in King County and throughout the country, and around the world for that matter. So national Unitarian organizations like the UU Ministry for Earth, the UUA, and the UU Service Committee advocate for environmental justice at the national level and help congregations engage in climate action. So the UU 7th principle is foundational for all of us and helps guide our actions collectively and individually. So during this pandemic, while you're at home, there are things you can do even now. Think about what draws you closer to nature and what you love. For instance, you might love birds. So Audubon Society of Kirkland offers outings for bird watching, helps you learn about plants you can grow in your garden that help birds. They also advocate for policies to protect wetlands and other habitat for migrating birds. If you love trees and you love hands-on kinds of activities, you might consider doing tree planting. In that case, you could consider joining Mountains to Greenway or Plant for the Planet based in Seattle. And I'll just mention on the side that come April 22nd, that's Tuesday, First United Methodist Church here in Bellevue is giving away free tree plantings. And they have a Sitka spruce, western hemlock, and grand fir, which are all native trees. And they're giving them away. You can just drive up to their driveway in downtown in Bellevue, and you can pick up some of these tree plantings and plant them in your own yard. Anyway, I would suggest get online, learn about and get inspired by what local groups are doing, and commit to 1, 2, or 3 that look interesting to you. You'll learn and connect with other people who love and want to protect what you and they both love. And that really helps bolster your spirits when you get depressed about the pace of climate action at the national level. I'll just mention that here at East Shore, we have an Earth and Climate Action Ministry team. And we meet on Mondays of every month from 7 to 9. And we call ourselves ECAM for short. We organize services and events here at church. We organize programs like the one that we're engaged in right now to educate the congregation. We're always looking for new members and ideas, so please consider joining our team. So ECAM members also engage in larger community actions. And for example, last fall, we participated in some of the global climate youth strikes. And I should mention that members of ECAM engage with a variety of different groups acting locally. So there's quite a bit of overlap. For example, some ECAM members participate in a citizen group called People for Climate Action And it's an alliance of individual citizens and groups, local groups who have organized to pressure city and councils to implement specific action plans to meet King County's existing carbon reduction targets and to accelerate them. ECOM also hosts 350 East Side here at East Shore. And 350 is an international environmental organization established by Bill McKibben, who many of you recognize as an environmentalist. The name stands for 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide, which is considered by many to be the safe upper limit to avoid a climate tipping point. And 350 meets every third Wednesday of the month here at East Shore in Spring Hall. And a number of groups that are listed here are also participating. Another group I want to mention is, and I just want to mention the mission for 350 is to focus on policy, advocacy, education, and creative direct action to bring about the changes that we're all seeking. Another group is a citizen group locally is Citizens Climate Lobby. It's actually a national group, but they have local chapters in Seattle, Bellevue, Kirkland, Issaquah. It's pushing Congress to pass legislation at the federal level, calling for a fee on carbon pollution at the national level. And I think it's critical to note that CCL members believe the solution to the climate crisis must be bipartisan. So it works with both Democrats and Republicans. So CCL chapters in King County meet every second Saturday from 9:30 to noon in people's homes or sometimes community centers, depending on the city. And each morning session comprises a nationally televised video presentation followed by small group training and interaction. And it's an important way to, an important opportunity to share information locally and nationally and encourage members to continue advocating for a sustainable climate. And I'll also mention that they're currently very concerned with getting out the environmental vote in the coming November election. And so I want to alert you that this Get Out the Drive, there's another, just a side note that there's a Zoom event coming up on April 28th with the Meaningful Movies and here on the East Side, and we'll be gathering via Zoom to view a talk about a 37-minute film called Suppressed, A Fight to Vote. And it will be sponsored by folks here at East Shore, and we can organize, it would be great to see, for example, to see East Shore organize actions to encourage voting in this coming election and discourage suppression of the vote. So please consider participating in that. Again, that's April 28th. I want to also mention a local group called Backbone Campaign. It's based on Vashon Island, and they help communities organize to bring about social change using a variety of tactics. They're not exclusively an environmental group, but that is certainly at the core of their philosophy. They've held week-long trainings on Vashon Island to train activists in civil disobedience, use of social media, and it was what is termed art build to mobilize public support. And something the director, Bill Moyer, likes to say, and I just want to repeat it here because I think it says a lot. He says, the only war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed within it. And I think with this pandemic, it opens up our capacity for imagination about what happens, what can come next, what should come next, in a way that may have seemed pretty closed off to a lot of us in recent years. The moment in time right now is critical to reflect on what this means. Again, that the only war that matters is the war against imagination. So Backbone has trained and organized, for example, kayaktivists in a Shell No flotilla back some years ago in 2015, and they have since used such tactics to bring public attention to threats to our waterways and environment. And for example, they use tactics like using light projection to dramatize issues. They create and lend giant banners and inflatables for use in our waterways, over freeway bridges and marches, in front of government buildings and banks to call for divestment from fossil fuel companies and development in our region. And I'll just mention, coming up this week are a number of actions to call on Chase Bank, for example, to divest from fossil fuel investment in infrastructure. And then there are groups like Sierra Club. It's a major national environmental lobbying organization with a local chapter here in Seattle. And here at East Shore, we've engaged in several actions with Sierra Club, and look forward to doing more in the future. And I'll just mention, for example, that ECAM coordinated with Sierra Club in a pull together campaign a couple of years ago. And that campaign involves, and it's an ongoing campaign. It's a campaign which involves an alliance of local, tribal, and community groups to protect the Salish Sea, also known as Puget Sound, and rivers, wildlife in the Pacific Northwest, like orcas and salmon, and fight the expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure here in the Pacific Northwest. We are very much a region targeted by fossil fuel companies right now in terms of building up pipelines for export largely. So ECAM is donating some money to Raven Trust, that is a partner of Sierra Club. And this is part of the Pull Together campaign. And Raven Trust helps fund First Nations in British Columbia who are involved in bringing court cases to oppose various pipeline projects which transport oil from the Alberta tar sands and to British Columbia and Washington state. And we encourage you to consider doing the same. And I want to also share some words of backbone campaign organizers use to sustain and encourage us to climate action. We have power, and our power is proportionate to the extent that our actions and words reflect the aspirations and values of the people. If we pull together, we can get to where we want to go faster, to a sustainable, healthy environment for all. So I urge you to commit to learning more and doing more, and using this time when we're largely at home to do that. Donate your time, your money, your talents, your ideas and energy to local groups. So if we have time, and I think we do, I can take some questions and comments. There are people out there in the group, of course, who know a lot more about some of these groups, and I'd be happy to for us to talk about that. Questions or comments?
Well done, Marilyn. That was a really great summary of everything.
Gwen hosts, by the way, I should say, for those of you who don't know, Gwen just waves so people know who you are. Gwen hosts CCL, Citizens Climate Lobby, at her home. She's a wonderful host and has been kind of instrumental in seeding a number of other CCL groups in our region. So I want to thank you, Gwen, for your ongoing efforts in that regard. And they do have a national lobbying day in Washington, D.C., and they've done for years, where people go and you have a chance, they set it up so you can go and meet your representatives. And there's also a regional the annual one occurs in June of every year. Don't know what's happening this year. Maybe you could help us out with Gwen with that. And there's also regional conferences that help. Again, you learn more, you get excited, you meet people, get engaged. Gwen, can you speak to the June?
Yeah, the June one will be online, and we will lobby Congress online as well. And also another good way to connect with CCL is we have a virtual Earth Day event on Saturday, April 25th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's going to feature Catherine Hayhoe, a really great keynote speaker, and it's going to have 4 breakout sessions. So it should be a really great event, and of course it's free and online. And I could put the link in the chat.
That'd be great. The other thing I want to mention, and maybe it's been mentioned already, and I didn't catch it, we do have on the East Shore website, there's a link to climate action, and all the list of the different resources are there. And definitely, if that isn't there, it may already be. We need to add it to that. So don't worry about maybe not getting everything through the written text in the chat, but we do have that material, and you get to it pretty readily by looking at the East Shore site.